Dean Legge here in Sanford Stadium, 31-24 victory for Georgia. A lot of different things to discuss. Obviously, the arrival of a healthy JT Daniels, what appeared to be a healthy JT Daniels, is certainly the story of the night. I do want to talk about a couple things first that are frustrating Georgia people. Number one, the run game, just non-existent tonight. Mississippi State is pretty good against the run, 24th in the country coming into tonight. They'll scoot up a little bit there. Georgia, obviously, number 3 in the country, and they may well go up as well on that front because they hardly allowed any runs either. That is really atypical, I think, as y'all know, from the way that Georgia's run the ball the whole year so far against everybody except State. So, as I've maintained for a long time, if people really want to stop the run, they can. You saw that tonight with Mississippi State jamming things up, sometimes with more people in the box than you would really want to run against. It was tough for Georgia to run. I mean, Georgia has run pretty well, but the different, and then as it relates to the defense, was not pretty, but they were going to make Mississippi State earn everything, and they actually did. So I'm not sure. Like Kirby, and then we're saying you're not going to beat us on a deep ball. We're not doing that. You're going to have to march the field. They did that, I think, 3 times. They may have gotten a big ball 1 time, but it's such a strange offense to deal with. It really is like dealing with Georgia Tech in the past with their option. I'm not sure definitive things can be made from that. I mean, Georgia does have to deal with its pass defense. That's going to be something that they need to sort of hone in on. But teams that are losing, I mean, the State wasn't losing the whole night, but teams that have that style, they're going to throw it and they're going to get their yards because they're throwing it. I mean, Kentucky never beat Georgia with its air raid offense, but they always threw the ball. So it's the same basic principle. It's kind of a throwaway game defensively. They got a strategy, stuck with it. It worked. It just was not. I mean, it really was like going to the dentist. Okay, I went the other day. It was not great as usual, but they, I still got all my teeth, so, and no cavities. JT Daniels was refreshing, sort of like a Fresca in the summer, like a really nice, not that filling beverage. Something that you really like to see. It was not a struggle for him. He got the job done. He was pretty damn good tonight. I was not expecting that. I was expecting good stuff. I wasn't expecting really pretty good quarterback play. This wasn't just about his arm. But in the sort of the truth comes out all the time about all this stuff. And, he was not ready for the Arkansas game. Stetson comes in, plays well against Arkansas, zoom, 27-point victory, blowout of Auburn, blowout of Tennessee, going to the Alabama game, pretty good until the end of the third quarter, and then from that point forward, it kind of fell apart. You can't ditch the guy that's doing pretty well, and then he doesn't play well in one game, and then you just say, we're getting rid of him. So they didn't, and then they get to the Kentucky game. And Stetson didn't play great in that game either, but they won. And so then you go to Florida. He plays well for a while, then gets injured, and it just was not the same after the injury. So they wanted to get some productions up. All the while that this is going on, here comes, JT Daniels getting healthier and healthier. No knee brace. He had the knee brace at Arkansas. I'm trying to remember when he didn't have the knee brace for the first time. I think it might have been at Kentucky or at Alabama. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was at one of those times. And he didn't throw like that. Like, what I mean to say is it didn't look like that with his feet. It was different. So then he gets out there, and tonight Kirby says, hey, he didn't do well in these scrimmages. Not only was he not ready to play in terms of being physically cleared, he didn't have great decision-making. He didn't have good decision-making situations. He was not moving well. There was a lot of stuff that was going on. And so, naturally, they don't go with him because they can't for the Arkansas game. They had to start going with someone, and then it was either essentially Carson, Stetson, or Mathis. Mathis has been around a little bit longer. His athleticism in the run game is something you can't miss. So all of this makes sense to me. But what people want is what they had tonight in September. The problem was in September, JT Daniels couldn't do that. I know because I sat there and watched him. He also wasn't playing good football in practice. I mean, well, in scrimmages, I should say more clearly. That's just what it is. That's not just Kirby saying this tonight publicly. That's what I was told at the time. Okay, so they knew they had something, but they couldn't figure out. Is he making bad decisions because he's rushing things because he's hurt, or is he just making bad decisions? So I thought tonight when he threw that one ball and it should have been picked, I thought this is what we're going to see. Like you're going to have to take the good with the bad with this guy. That was the bad. The rest of the bad was, the run game and guys dropping balls in the end zone. This became what Kyrus Jackson was talking about. Explosive. They could have scored more, certainly. They probably could have scored 40 points if they had an adequate run game or a bad, not just a horrific run game. But they did it basically only through the air tonight. And State did a great job of keeping the ball from JT Daniels and company. Well, all of a sudden here, everyone's like, wait a second. Okay, this season's gone, which people never talk like that. They always want to talk about the bad. But they're thinking all of a sudden off the top of their head, they're like, wait a second, this guy could be here for a season next year. That's totally possible. He could also go to the NFL. So that's another thing. But if you have him coming back for your 21 season, now you're talking about a legit vertical passing game. Brock Vandagriff can do that too. It's just that he's 18 years old right now, and this guy's got now 13 or 14 games of experience starting. That's a big deal. He's not always going to play like this. He's not. But the run game isn't always going to be this bad either. So it's both. And the question is, can this team and program continue to play like that in the passing game from here on out? You got Carolina, who is just struggling mentally right now. Vanderbilt, who did not play bad against the Gators today. That happens in Nashville with those two. Vanderbilt usually plays better than they sort of should against the Gators. And then you've got Missouri, who looks like the toughest game. It's on the road, all this stuff. Can you continue, but certainly a very winnable game for Georgia. Can you continue to be productive in the passing game in a way that you have not been lately? That's the question. That's what we won't know until they get out there. But in Columbia, they really need to spike the chickens. This does not need to be a competitive game. I know it's on the road, but South Carolina doesn't have the defense Mississippi State does. Certainly not up front in the run game. Now, Carolina could possibly run on Georgia a little bit, but they both have bad records, but Carolina is in a bad place right now in a way that State's been pretty bad too now, and they're rocking and rolling on their program. But this was not a great game by any stretch of the imagination for Georgia. But let's not bury the lead. The guy that you have been looking for some time, maybe even since 2018, maybe you got him. Maybe you don't. He's not always going to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. He could throw 3 interceptions in a game like Justin Fields did today. These things are all possible when you put the ball in the air. But the question is, can you match that with a run game that we know Georgia's been able to do? Tonight, Mississippi State said to Georgia, you're not running, you're going to have to throw to win. And Georgia said, okay. Kirby and them said, you're not beating us over the top, you're going to have to march it down the field to do it. And State did, but they didn't win. So, sports is hard sometimes. Sports hard. Sports is hard. And you just want to come out on the winning side, which Georgia did tonight. Peach Bowl, very possible. Peach, whatever it is, peach, cotton, orange. It's probably going to be the Peach Bowl. So these are all things that are still possible. This program has a lot to play for right now, only because, or if for no other reason, to see where you can go with this guy, with Daniels. See where you can go. And take it from there. Dean Legge from Dog Post. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter. You see it. It's right there on the screen. Click it. Sign up. Thanks. We'll see you on the website.